Today's date is April the 25th, 2011. Today we're interviewing Lieutenant General John Castellow of Crockett County. General, if you will, please state your full name and place of residence and at what rank at time of retirement.
Oh, sure, Gary. John Gladwin Castellow, and I was a Lieutenant General, 3 stars when I retired, and I live at 1702 Manley Road, just outside of Crockett Mills.
General, tell us a little bit about your former education through the 12th grade and where you attended.
I went to school at Crockett Mills, Hamlet Robertson, grades 1 through 12. My mother taught the 6th grade, and of course there was only one 6th grade, so I had my mother, but that wasn't the worst of it. You know, whatever I did, the other teachers would come down and say, "Hey, you know what Glad did today," you know? But it was double jeopardy when I was in her class. I did something and she spanked me at school, and she spanked me when I got home. That was double jeopardy.
Yes, sir. General, I believe I was a recipient of several of those spankings myself because your mother also taught me. Where did you seek to further your education, and some info on your college experience with the different various organizations that you were involved with?
I went to the University of Tennessee at Martin, and while I was there, I'd always thought that I would go into the military for a short period of time, while I was there, I was in ROTC because it was mandatory, but it continued to fuel my interest in the military. And there was a Crockett Countyan who was a career Navy guy by the name of Jerry Harbor. And Jerry, on one of his last tours when he was in the Navy, was on recruiting. And he would come by where my father had a business, and I would talk with him, and he stimulated my interest in the naval services. So by the time I had got to UT Martin, I had pretty much narrowed it down to either the Navy or the Marine Corps. And so I went with the Marines program while I was at Martin.
Tell me a little bit about some of the different organizations that you were involved in while at Martin.
I pledged to Alpha Gamma Rho, AGRs, which is an Ag Social Professional fraternity. Was involved in student government, involved in some of the other ag-related organizations.
General, if you will, give us some info and go in depth as much as you feel necessary on the different commands you have held.
Well, my first command, it was we call it a platoon commander, but really it's platoon leader. I had a platoon of Amtrak's, amphibious vehicles, and when I got my commission and I had finished my initial training, you get your choice, or you give a choice of what you wanted to be. And I wanted to be in something that was like, you know, made noise and smelled like diesel, and so I wanted to go into armor, and so that's what I got into, Marine Corps armor, which was amphibious vehicles. So I had 49 troops in my platoon, and 2 or 3 of them were Vietnam veterans, and I always remember that you get initiated into being an Amtracker. So what they did was they said, hey, you got to qualify with a sledgehammer. And so you had a ramp, and you put a penny on the ramp, and you tried to flatten that penny with a sledgehammer. And so, you know, I'm being a farmer, and I said, hey, I can do this. And just as I was going to hit it, they said, oh, we're going to blindfold you. So they took my cover off, which is the Marine for a cap. And going to continue?
Just let's break one moment until the siren gets through. We'll stop them, and we can right here in it. Unless we have to turn it on.
Okay.
We ready?
General Castellow, if you will, tell us some of the info on the different commands you have held in the past.
Well, I started out as a platoon commander, 49 troops and 12 amphibious vehicles, and that was my first leadership role in the Marine Corps. And then later on, I commanded squadrons. I commanded helicopter squadron that deployed aboard ship to the Mediterranean. I had 23 helicopters of all kinds plus 6 Harriers. And then I commanded the Marine Corps' version of Top Gun. We call it MAWTS, M-A-W-T-S, MAWTS 1. Where we brought in helicopters and jets and everything, had Air Force, Army, Navy guys participating in. That was the most fun I had flying because I flew everything, helicopters to jets, and really enjoyed doing that. I commanded the 3rd Marine Brigade out of Okinawa, and that formed the nucleus for the U.S. Forces Interfit, which was International Force East Timor. Went in with the Australians to reestablish security and stability in East Timor, and that was the most fulfilling command I had because rebuilt the country, allowed the people to come back from the mountains after it had been their homes had been destroyed and they'd been run out of their villages and so forth. Commanded the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, which had 15,000 people and 400 airplanes. Enjoyed being involved with that. So that was my last big command, was 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, headquartered in Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Of all the different aircraft that you have flown, what was your favorite, and which was the most challenging?
Well, my favorite has to be the CH-46, which was my primary aircraft. Marine Corps introduced it during Vietnam, and aircraft still flying now. It's over 40 years old, but it's like an old shoe, you know. I can sit in this chair and grab an imaginary collective and a stick and take off and fly and land, and I'll know just exactly what to do. So it was, I really enjoyed flying the Harrier. I had a 2-seat Harrier as part of the unit I commanded in North Carolina, and so I went through a program where I could get in the front seat and start it up and taxi it and fly it and take it off. It's a little scooter jet. But I think the most rewarding airplane I flew was a V-22. I was involved in the creation of it, and when I was at head of Marine Aviation, I made the decision, and the Commandant of the Marine Corps backed me up, and I had to go defend it before Secretary Rumsfeld to deploy the aircraft to Iraq. I believe it was the most survivable and best aircraft we had to take the world's most lethal weapon, which is a Marine rifleman, and I thought they ought to have it, so we deployed it. And in the last 3 years, it's set a record as being the safest aircraft that we've had. So started out with some tough times, but right now it's the safest, most capable aircraft that we have carrying troops in both Iraq, Afghanistan, and from aboard ship.
Tell us a little bit about the time you spent at the Pentagon.
I hope to forget it. I did 3 tours in the Pentagon. I first went there in 1984. The hardest job that I ever had was in the Pentagon. You know, I thought growing up, picking cotton and hauling hay and everything, that was tough. But in that job, I worked essentially 7 days a week. Sometimes I slept in my office. But it was very gratifying because that's when I started working with the B-22 and with a lot of other aircraft, and that eventually came into the Marine Corps. So as a major, you know, you were given responsibility over advocating for a number of aircraft and programs, and I did, and being able to see them come online was very gratifying, but it was a tough job. The only time in our 40 years of marriage that my wife said she thought about divorcing me because I commuted 39 miles each way, and the best time on getting to work was 42 minutes. The worst time was 6.5 hours, and that was in D.C. And it's a killer on you and the families in there. Went back in the 90s as a colonel, and I headed up the organization, aviation plans and programs, and again able to continue supporting those programs that I started. And then my last time I was head of Marine Aviation, and then the very last tour I had was as the Marine Corps money guy, in effect the Chief Financial Officer of the Marine Corps. At that time, including all the supplemental, we had about a $40 billion budget, and my job was to put the budget together, defend it within the Pentagon, and over on Congress, and then execute it.
General, as far as looking back on your retirement, it's no great secret that as a 3-star general, you could have chosen to have your retirement ceremony anywhere in the country, but instead you came back to Crockett County. Tell us a little about that decision.
Well, I always tried to keep connections back here. My family is here, my roots here. I'd always said that eventually I would come back. I told my wife when we got married and I got my commission that, hey, you know, honey, 2 years and we'll be back on the farm. It took 36. First thing I did was when I got promoted to 3 stars, I did it in a nursing home here in Alamo. My grandmother was 100 years old. She had never seen any kind of military ceremony, so we held it at the nursing home, and as I was marching in, and we had locals that were involved in it. Gerald Reasons was one of them. He's the one that gave me the oath of office. He had been in Iwo Jima and a Marine, so he would participate in the ceremony. But as I marched past to go to in front of the flags, my grandmother was in a wheelchair, said, "There's my boy," you know, so it was a precious moment for me. And so it wasn't much of a decision later on when I retired to have it here, and the community really supported me, you know, Mayor Griffith and Mayor Green and the others. The soldiers in the formation were National Guard from the local area, provided by Gus Hargett. The Navy from Millington sent their band up. The Reserve Unit in Memphis and the recruiting service out of Nashville provided the Marines for the ceremony. And we had another uniform service presence. The trustees from the county jail were the ones in orange jumpsuits who did the set up and take down. So I told her that we had 4 services represented at my ceremony. So you know, I thought that you know, it was an opportunity for the people of Crockett County to see a military ceremony, and so it worked out. And we're really proud that we were able to do it. They said it was the biggest thing that happened in Alamo since the gas tanks blew up in '57. I don't know if that's true or not, but I certainly remember when the gas tanks blew up.
General, it was certainly good to have you come back. It was a great thing for Crockett County that you choose to have your retirement here in your hometown county. Is there anything you would like to add in closing remarks that we haven't discussed?
I'd just say that, you know, Crockett County is a great incubator for people, I think. You know, I think when you look at, you know, we've had an ambassador, we've had a Assistant Secretary of Defense, we've got a president of a large institution. I think that says good things about the people, and not only the ones who may have left and done other things, but the ones who stayed here and ensured that the quality of life that we all enjoy and love has been maintained. And for all of you who have done that, you have my greatest appreciation for doing that. And it makes a place well worth coming back home to. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for your time this interview today, General. Have a good day. Thank you.